everybody. Welcome to On the Clock with Caroline Clark. I am Caroline Clark, Chief Brand Officer, Women of Power at Black Enterprise, and we're so glad you joined us today. I'm about to have a conversation with the phenomenal couple who owns just one of the most wonderful restaurants, Alvin and Friends, in New Rochelle, New York, which, if you're familiar, New Rochelle has been dubbed sort of ground zero for coronavirus in the entire United States. They had an outbreak there at the beginning of March, and everyone has continued to watch this small city just north of Manhattan to see how it continues to recover from what has really been a devastating impact, obviously, on the community there as it has on the rest of the country. So please welcome entrepreneurs Alvin and Gwen Clayton. Hey, you guys, how you doing?
Hey, Caroline, how are you?
Hey, Caroline.
Doing okay. Doing okay.
Good.
Thankfully, we're all safe and well, and we can see a little bit behind you, get a little bit of a taste of your beautiful restaurant, fine dining in New Rochelle, and a part of the community that is much, much beloved. And that's a piece of Alvin's artwork behind him that happens to be owned by Blair Underwood. I happen to know that. And it you know, it's just a lovely, lovely restaurant with absolutely amazing food. So just tell us, if you will, first of all, take us back to the beginning of March and when all of this first began in New Rochelle, what you thought the impact might be, and then how the impact actually rolled out on your business.
Okay. Well, I think first of all, initially, I don't think anyone knew the severity of what this was going to be. And then, you know, we had the last regular day of operation at our restaurant was March 7th. And we had a huge party here. Someone had celebrated their 50th birthday. And believe it or not, you know, irony, the theme of the party was the Roaring 20s. And so there was this fabulous party. We had two bands, one in a Latin band in the back and a funk band in the front of the room. They rented the whole restaurant out. Everybody was looking fabulous and you know, having a great time. And then this thing, you know, we've started realizing the enormity of it. And it went from 100 miles an hour to 5 miles an hour, literally.
And I think when Governor Cuomo was talking about gatherings, which is my specialty, gatherings at the restaurant, you know, first it was 100 and then it dropped to 50 and then it was like no gatherings. And so it sort of, I think for everybody, kind of went in like a wave, and the wave just kept getting bigger and bigger until it just tsunami'd all of us at the same time. I think we were all in that same, like, wait for it. I would say that the impact was almost numbing at one point, because we sort of said, well, the whole country's going through it, so don't take it personal, you know? But your business is personal. How you know, we went from a vibrant, you know, kind of a glory moment of a party, an epic party that took months to plan. Literally, this was not an overnight thing. This was a 50th Great Gatsby, you know, nothing left off the table. I mean, we had a dessert reveal, we had ice sculpture, we had the most amazing appetizers, past appetizers, stations. We had guests come in their full, you know, so it was all about fun. And then till it wasn't. Yeah. And I think, to be honest, you know, sort of like, I don't know, it's like that old novel, Great Expectations, you know, it's like this moment of this things just going in poetry in motion, and then just coming to a screeching halt and just watching the cobwebs start to fester. That's what it felt like for me anyway. Yeah.
Tell us about, you know, sort of the structure of the business itself. How many employees did you have on March 7th when you had this beautiful party, and how many do you have now? You know, what percentage of the business was the catering business? What is it now? How, you know, give us that sort of before and after.
Well, you know, I mean, we're a fine dining restaurant. So, you know, at full capacity, on a weekly basis, we have about 30 people that we keep employed, not including ourselves. And, so we went from that to now having like 5 people. And the 5 people that we do have, including us, is because we've had to restructure the whole restaurant the way that it's run. So initially, we went, like I said, from 100 miles an hour to like 5 miles an hour. We had almost no customers in the restaurant. And I do appreciate the fact that, in spite of it all, people recognize the importance of small businesses and especially restaurants to a community. So there was some talk about, how can we keep our small businesses going? How can we keep restaurants afloat? But we were at a disadvantage because being a fine dining restaurant, the prices that we have, the location of our restaurant, there's a lot of overhead that we have to cover. So we couldn't really compete with that small mom and pop business that is used to being taking out food every night. You can order 3 times a week, 4 times a week if you choose to be. So I had to kind of figure out, be nimble and say, okay, how do we even compete with this? So we were shut down basically for like a week and a half. And then I decided, okay, we don't have the white tablecloths to take care of anymore. We don't have the busboys. We don't have the music. So let me restructure the restaurant without actually taking the value in what we do and the quality of the product that we put out. So I basically said, okay, restructure the menu, which items can travel quickly, which items, we have a flavor that's Caribbean and Southern. So I went a little more to that takeout mentality for that. So I added roti to the menu. I added doubles to the menu. I went to the southern part of what we do, New Orleans kind of, and I said, okay, let's do some poor boys. And then we were able to get the prices in that range that we can be competitive with other people. And that actually had seemed to be working. So it's not like we're making a fortune, because we're just staying relevant with it and still being able to help the community at this time.
Yeah, and I think for us, the name of the game was stay in the game by any means necessary. And, the hardest part, like right away, the staff, we all become like a little bit frightened, because this ecosystem that took a long time to develop, it was an ecosystem of musicians, waiters, students that relied on this income for their, students that work.
Whether it's they're spending money or just helping
parents,
with the books with their parents.
People, families. I mean, it was a lot of it. And, 27 employees on a regular is kind of, right front and center. And, our thing was, okay, so we're on a timeout, but we can't lose them. What does this mean? So I think there was like for everyone else, the big gray area of what's to come. And so we just sort of took the day as it would come with an option of, okay, let's prepare and plan, and let's see what staff can come in and feel safe, and what staff are healthy, and more importantly, let's make sure that we have a fully clean, ready to go. Like, it took us a minute to get ready to do this. While he was healthy, I was not. So he had me in a quarantine, and yet he was running to the depot, shopping, looking for, quality at the, we didn't want to change that. So, and then miraculously, we started to see friends kind of call through the door. Even those friends who didn't even live local would call and say, how can we help? We want to order dinners for, and that kind of kickstarted the ability to just go to the store and buy everything that we would need, and sort of say, you know what, we'll just start with this week. We'll do 2 days, and it sort of went like that.
And build from there. You mentioned when your own illness, and it's very important to note that in the midst of your dealing with the coronavirus's impact on your business, you each also had to deal with it personally. Because when you got sick and you both ultimately tested positive, although it impacted you physically very differently. Can you talk about that for a second? Just what it was like to go through the virus itself?
Well, the first part was sort of like a Mack truck that hit me. And the first thing that kind of came to mind was, oh my God, this better not be it, because, you know, this could be the end of the restaurant. You know, how are two owners gonna survive this if we both have the virus?
Right.
That was a huge thing. And, you know, we actually tried to just kind of quiet, like we really didn't know what to say. We didn't know, but the fact of the matter was I had 104 temperature that would not come down. And Alvin was bringing me quarantine meals, not knowing his condition. It wasn't until we got tested. We didn't get our results till late. I knew I had it. I knew that it was a horrible, you know, those who are getting it and seeing the other side of it, you know, I think we're all having different reactions, but those that get it sort of have that weird moment where you're like, okay, it's like the flu. So just toughen up, hunker down, you're gonna get on the other side of this. And so you walk in that faith moment. And then your delusions start to hit in and you start to go, wait, people are dying of this. Well, you know, you're fine until you're not. So it was like that weird mental. So I just had to deal with that. I didn't bother him with it. I didn't want to be in the way. I stayed clear from the restaurant, didn't go near it until, you know, till I could. I had a quarantine. We couldn't get the kids home. So we were dealing with a lot of things all at once and still trying to just stay positive and, you know, stay in the game, because, you know, we just felt like we had to be a little bit stronger than normal, because there was a lot on the table.
How much did you all communicate openly about your fears? Because I know, Gwen, you've said since then that you had that moment, although you didn't get hospitalized, where you thought, you know, maybe I won't be okay, right? And maybe I just feel so badly that if that's it, kind of that's it. But, you know, how concerned, Alvin, were you about Gwen? Meanwhile, you're trying to keep the business open. You know, how did you all navigate that time? Were you open about it, or did you each just sort of hunker down and try to act like it's going to be okay?
I mean, I think the latter was really the approach they took, that it was kind of going to be okay. Mm-hmm. At first, it was like so much misinformation about this thing that we really didn't know the severity of it at one point, you know. I mean, fortunately for us, I think the mayor of our town has been like a champion. He's been like really amazing. And so I think he took like quick and swift actions with coordinating stuff with the governor, and they got the testing site here in Rochelle. And we knew that once it was spreading as quickly as it had been spreading, that, you know, us being in a position where we deal with the public,
we had to be careful.
It was even much more, it was exacerbated like 100%, because I'm like, we can't be the carriers of this and you know, infecting our community. So right away we went to the station. Gwen had gotten to be on the list for testing because you had to get an appointment. And at that point, I hadn't gotten anything. And so what happened was we drove up before she actually had a specific appointment. And we basically told them in the line that, you know what, they asked us if we had it. We said, if we had an appointment, we said, well, she's on the list. She hasn't quite had the definitive time yet, but we run a restaurant and we're in the public and we really need to know whether or not, you know, we have this. And so initially they were very understanding. They put us through. We had the test and then we were waiting. Unfortunately, initially they weren't getting the results back as quickly as they had been saying that they were getting it back. We basically waited a week, but because, you know, we're conscientious people, we treated it as we were infected and basically just stayed away from everyone. Gwen and we even said, you know, we're fortunate to be living in a home where we can quarantine ourselves, you know, in different rooms.
You took Bella's room.
And, you know, and so we were responsible with that. But it was like, it was very, you know, touchy and you're wondering what's going on.
Yeah. And
you mentioned the mayor, Noam Bramson.
Yes.
And you happen to be in New York. So you have Governor Mario Cuomo. And, both of them have been noted for, this really impressive leadership in a time where the leadership has not overall been very impressive, right? But I know that New Rochelle established a containment zone.
Yes.
Where everything within that containment zone shut down. That was where the virus initiated in the city. Your restaurant was lucky enough to be just outside of the containment zone. So initially you must have thought, that might make it sort of okay.
Yes.
But it really didn't end up mattering all that much, right?
Yeah, well, the great thing, the one thing that we're so happy about our restaurant is that it's a restaurant, it's the most inclusive restaurant in Westchester, probably. So our client base, they come from all over Westchester. And even though we knew that we were outside the containment zone, we still knew we were going to be impacted, but we didn't know how strongly. And there had been, the ramifications of New Rochelle being the epicenter of this virus really affected people everywhere. Because so now New Rochelle was like a plague. So even those few people that may have been in another town that was not quarantined or whatever, they were now afraid to come into New Rochelle. And that was our lifeline. So we didn't have our New Rochelle customers because they were quarantined. And then we didn't have anybody else coming into New Rochelle. And there were even points where people in the other surrounding towns, when people from New Rochelle, there had been reports that when people from New Rochelle were going there and people found that they were from New Rochelle, they were like refusing to serve them. So it was like really, our business was non-existent because of the impact of it.
So where did you look to help? I know that you did apply for the stimulus package assistance. Tell us what happened there.
We applied within, the time frame that they'd given us. And, so we were cautiously optimistic, I don't know if people think everything through, but when I heard about the package and the way that it was going to be rolled out, everything that actually happened, I knew that was going to happen. I knew that the big guys were going to get all the money. The smaller, I really knew, because I've seen this play before. But you still play by the game and you try to do what you can. So we didn't get any of the stimulus money at all. I actually brought a few people back to work, to try and help them out, because expecting that the money was coming in. And basically we run the hook for that now, because they worked. And, fortunately, because the business had picked up a little bit with some of the deliveries or whatever. And Gwen and I, we still don't pay ourselves. I had a little bit of a savings that I kind of used myself, but almost everything that I have has gone into keeping the staff here and helping them out with their family. There's even been a few people that are actually, they haven't been here, and they've reached out to us and we've given them a little bit of money or whatever. But whatever you do, the good that you do follows you 100%, because when we finally did open back up for delivery, I think Gwen alluded to it, there was an order from somebody from Baltimore placing a $200 order on, and when my help was taking the name, I said, wait a minute, I recognize that name. It was my roommate from college that was calling to make have an order and have us give it to whoever we wanted to give it to. So, this is when this country becomes stronger, I think, in a lot of ways. We see all the negative stuff on top with politicians and everything like that, and this one against that one. But I think the soul of who we are as people and the people that we meet on a day-to-day basis, I think that love and caring is there, and that keeps you going. So
yeah, I mean, we had partners like the Lees, Malcolm and Cammie, call and say, you know what, we want to buy first responders dinner tonight, and that was good, because it kind of re-energized us. Even if we didn't have people lining up to buy the takeout, we had friends that were picking up the bill for hospital staff that were tired of eating pizza. So it was like a triple win-win-win.
And I think, for me,
that felt good.
I think for me, it was like just the fact of being in the trenches still and kind of like making meals, even though we weren't making any money, but we were making a difference in the people that were on the front line, helping them out. It was really gratifying for me. It's like,
Yeah, I mean, and it isn't, I mean, the profit margins and all that we kind of work that out, and we kind of just let that be. We sort of work into, let's make sure that that meal is memorable and that they don't forget that that meal was Alvin and Friends. And, we stick to the brand, and, we delivered it ourselves. I mean, I have to say that that's the privilege in it, that we have such a boots on the ground approach with the kind of work that we do always. I jumped into helping later as I could help deliver, but I didn't get in the kitchen. I didn't, it just, I don't know, safe distancing always. But I think as we got more kind of Cammie and Malcolm Lee types put out there, more were coming and people want to help. So that was helping us build our business and pay the staff that came on, because they, so it is sort of like a very tiny piece of the ecosystem building itself back.
Yeah. And
I hope that other businesses are going through that too. I hope that they're not all completely stagnant, because it was like putting fresh water back into a pond that needed it.
But to also piggyback on a question you asked earlier, but I mean, so the infectiousness of people's generosity kind of shared, but there's still like a huge part of what we did that has been, fractured, I mean, like almost like 50% of our, or 40% of our business had been catering,
at least,
for parties and different things like that. And that was totally knocked out,
right.
That hurt.
But fortunately, for us, the building that we operate in, we own. So I think that's like a huge thing. And I've always told people in the past, if you get into this industry, it's better to own your property, because then in a situation like this, we're able to get a bit of a deferment from the bank because everybody's going through it. Yeah. So that's one thing that we didn't have to deal with. So that also helped us in the pricing that we were able to put into.
And that deferment is what, 2 months?
They gave us 3. Yeah. But when, they said to us, like, if they didn't know how long it was going to last, if we needed extra help because we got it through the SBA, that they would extend it for us and put it on the back.
Negotiate. Yeah, I want to clarify for people, because you mentioned Malcolm and Cammie Lee. That's Malcolm Lee, the film director, films like The Best Man, and his wife Cammie, who is a therapist in the community and grew up in the community. Yeah. They invested in the restaurant and are dear friends. And I think that those types, your friends, your college roommate, Alvin, patrons of yours who I know just love the restaurant and will just get takeout every week because they're conscientious about sustaining you. But I know, Alvin, you said, for better or worse, you're disappointed, but you're not that surprised by the lack of support from the government in spite of all the promises around the stimulus, right? Gwen, I think, you had a different expectation and you were a little bit more disappointed. You said to me the other day, you felt like the big rescue ship just passed your little sinking ship by and did nothing, right? So the day that it came out that all of the money was gone, oh my God, I could barely get out of bed that day. I was so depressed because I still had that. I took it as face value. I heard all of these business pundits on national television, MSNBC, about the benefit of what this would do for the small business, and to hear that like 85,000 went to, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. It did feel like 100%. I felt like it felt nothing short of cold, deep water in an inner tube, a rescue inner tube, with the air hissing out and a flare, 3 flares fired, and to watch the ship go and waving, wait, and it just went by.
I mean,
that's what it felt like.
I think the fortunate part for us is that we balance each other out. Like the days that I don't feel like getting out of bed because I'm like, felt like, okay, my win has been knocked out. She's been there to kind of say, you know what, come on, we cannot let this fail now. We got to go. And I'm invigorated. And so I think for her, because of my expectations, how I treated it, I was that one now for her saying, you know what, hey, let's move on. You know, this is like, it's going to be okay, kind of thing. So fortunately, I pray that we never both get knocked out at the same time.
On the same day, right?
Exactly.
I mean, Caroline, the thing is, like, the day before I had opened up school tax bill that the building pays. It felt like, okay, we're a small business, but there are no breaks, and don't expect them, but you might get this. The stimulus package is supposed to like help with that. And so as I opened up those bills, and there were a lot of them, I mean, the insurance and the things that customers will never know, TMI, just things that keep the fidelity of our business open.
Yeah.
And all of the permits and all of those things add up. Such a crazy fee.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there going, we can buy the food, but that's it.
Right. Well, and you also have 2 of your 3 kids in college, you know,
Right.
Tuition bills to pay. Alvin, I know your mom is there in the community. She's elderly. You've been dropping food off to her. So there are just so many things that, as you say, you're balancing at once. Talk to me about the local community effort, because, you know, New Rochelle is a very special place.
It is.
And, you know, it's a particularly diverse city. It was founded with the tenets to really embrace and celebrate diversity. And it continues to do that. And your restaurant continues to be a centerpiece to that effort. I know that New Rochelle began recently a program called Nourish Well. Talk to us about that and how helpful that's been.
So I just want to tell you, in the same analogy that steamship went by, the tugboat showed up. And the tugboat had New Road Strong, we're coming for you. The tugboat is pulling us in. And that Nourish is an amazing program that they're giving to a lot of restaurants, an opportunity to serve families that are struggling with dining and food on the table for different reasons.
So what they do is they buy gift cards from different, so I guess there's a pool of resource of money that they have, and then they buy different gift cards from different restaurants, and they give it to the families. So the families can basically order the food from the different restaurants. So that has been, you know, we sell it to them at a discounted price, but they keep us relevant, and we are able to help the community as well. And it's been really a great program. From the time the cards went out, people were responding back, you know, getting food, and they were like so happy. And I think people in the community, I really think that generosity spreads, because people hear the stories and they want to be a part of that. People want to be a part of something that's good, especially when there's so much destruction and death and stuff around us. And so I'm seeing people in the community really trying to make an effort. And, you know, even if it's somebody just to say, you know what, I want to buy a bottle of rum punch or whatever. And that's kind of like, I think that's what has kept us going, to be honest with you.
We've had the diehards that are, you know, sending me texts, Janet Roulet, you know, when are you doing takeout? I got you. And at one point, you know, I thought, okay, let's just stay in this lane of serving this group right now. The part of the people in the community that care is going into small businesses like small realtor groups. They're pooling their funds, and they're saying, okay, we want to feed, you know, the Montrefor, their front line, their responders. We have a group of fraternity guys this week that are, Mount Vernon PD has been hit hard with the coronavirus. There are so many that are ill with it that can barely get out of bed. And so we're doing a big delivery to them, and it's at midnight. Now that's inconvenient, but you know what? We'll do it. Right. It's a midnight run.
Nourish Well, and Nourish Well, just to be a little bit more specific, I believe they purchased initially hopefully there'll be more, but it was like $2,400 worth of gift cards, right? At a discount.
At a discount, yes.
So it was about 2,100
Yes,
thereabouts.
exactly, yeah.
So can you sort of paint a picture for us, honestly, in the greater scheme of things, how much does that help? You know, I know you've drilled your operating expenses down as low as you possibly could, but what is it still costing you to sustain the business, and how big is the shortfall?
You know, so something like that, it's like, the way I look at it, it pays a bill. You know, it keeps the chef, it keeps me being able to have my chef come in, and so he can provide for his family because they're all home, and he's the main breadwinner of the family. You know, we're still like in a bit of a hole regardless of that. But like I said, because we don't have the rent right now, that it's not one of the things that I'm worried about. I'm able to do that. The prices that we're charging for when different people call us to provide for the police department or the hospital is not anywhere close to what we're doing. I'm basically breaking even, but I feel what I'm doing is staying relevant. And I really believe, you know, I'm a spiritual person. I believe that I've always said to people that, you know, my place was built on prayer, because regardless of what happened, we're able to survive. And so I really feel that whatever we're doing now, the effort that we're making will come back to us hundredfold eventually sometime. And so I'm not thinking about it that way. You know, maybe it's a bad way, but I'm kind of living in the now. Okay, what can we do now to make a difference now? And then the rest will be figured out, you know. So.
I mean, when that gift card, when that check hit our ACH, I was like, ooh, I could pay a little Con Ed.
Yeah, so, right. I mean, it was all used up right away.
So I was like,
but at least we're still, we give thanks every day that we're still in the game. Like I say, every day standing is a good day. And
have they indicated that program will continue, or?
I think so.
I think they have. They've had each restaurant monitor the use of the card. So we had spoken with them, and people were really using it, and so they were encouraged by that. So I think there's going to be a second round of that coming.
Yeah, and I guess the funding is coming a little bit from the RXR and different groups. So
my understanding is that they raised money from some of the developers in the community, because there's been a lot of development going on in New Rochelle. So people are trying to plant a stake and show that they care, right?
Yeah, New Rochelle, I mean, we've been here, 19 years now. It really is an amazing community. We love it. I mean, the diversity of people is probably the most diverse community in Westchester. And, you know, people really live here in harmony, and we really feel like we're a part of the fabric of this community, and it comes back to us as well. So it's really, it's a nice place.
And how old is the business?
10 years.
10 years old this year.
Yeah.
So I have a question. As pieces of the rest of the country begin to open up, right? Mm-hmm. We've seen this beginning of this trickling of what feels like premature opening up and testing the waters. And New Rochelle, where really this all began and was very much in the spotlight of that, continues to hold it down, right? You continue to be on lockdown. I believe currently it's till mid-May, right?
Right now, yes.
For now. Do you feel a light at the end of the tunnel? Do you sense it? Do you see a glimmer? Or are you really still in a place of, as you said, Alvin, just getting through the day-to-day and staying in the present? Like, how far can you plan ahead? Are you even trying to?
You know, right now I'm not really trying to, only because I really believe that the way to coming out of this successfully is going to be in the science. And so I'm listening to what they're saying, the people that actually are authorities on this pandemic. And if they're correct, I think we're still a couple months away from really where people would feel comfortable being in a restaurant to sit down and have dinner or whatever. And so I think there are other places that probably can open up and will do well, but I think it's still going to be a little bit of time on a fine dining restaurant like what we do, where we're going to be at a place that's going to be, you know, okay, you know.
So there's your ER, but I'm like still optimistic that You know, the new normal will be probably my servers wearing, you know, masks, that there'll be social distancing somewhere in the dining, and that, you know, we kind of just slowly kind of enter our way back into some sort of comfort of community in this restaurant, because it's a big space. So it's not like, you know, everybody would be piled up. And in that line of thinking, I'm pulling articles from Black Enterprise and no kidding, things on it like how to retrain your staff, things to, you know, I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be a new blueprint for us to work from. And we want the staff to really understand, you know, that's very strict guidelines, no matter what. If we get the glory of opening back up, yay. Maybe we'll Alvin's always tweaking ideas to move the cake, you know, to move takeout. As a matter of fact, we did an experiment with Sunday brunch this Sunday, opening the doors when, you know, he didn't think we were going to get a while back. And he's like, wow, it did well. So we have to kind of recalibrate best practices, and, you know, our personal best kind of changes every day because it does that. But for me, I'm like looking at ways to keep things neat and organized and clean up the office. And this downtime is not like I'm using the time. So.
Well, we both are. I'm just thinking.
What are you using the time for? I know, Alvin, you know, we're seeing your art behind you, and the art is a staple of the restaurant. It lines all of the walls. And Gwen used to be your manager with all of that before the restaurant opened up. Has the art picked up? Have you been trying to market the art as part of a way to sort of offset some of the shortfall?
You know what, I haven't really focused on it as from the business aspect of it, really. But I have been painting quite a bit. And what I have been doing, just because people are going through these dark times, like every new painting that I've done, I've been posting on Facebook. And the response has been tremendous, and people like so happy, and it's uplifting and everything else. But it is, you know, it is forcing us to actually figure out what's the new direction for the art as well. You know, we have some things in the works for where the art's going to appear coming up soon, and I'm thinking that maybe after the end of this, like all the paintings that I've posted, I will get like a vote from people which one they would like to see in the print. And I'm thinking of maybe doing a limited edition print and using some of the resources to help we haven't figured out what yet, but we're gonna use the resources to help some place in the community that probably was hit so hard that may have been ignored with the, you know, the recovery.
So the art, let people know what the Facebook handle is so they can go see.
So that's your
you mean the site for the art?
Yeah,
or,
is it on the restaurant
it's under Alvin Clayton Art. It is Facebook's site that Ollie set up. Yeah. Alvin is not the best at uploading onto it.
We all have our gifts.
We all have our gifts. I'm actually waiting for him to come home and resurrect it, because he'll be home in a couple of weeks from school.
Your son, Ollie, you're
talking about. Yeah. He's still in New Orleans. And so I feel like, you know, it's hard to push an agenda when everybody's like struggling to put food on the table. I don't know. I just feel like that's a little, but it is his.
But it's really good stuff. If I can say so myself.
It is his like cathartic thing that, you know, and I'm glad that he's in that mindset and that space to still enjoy painting. I'm really actually have to say that social media with the art of other artists and people doing puzzles and game nights, I mean, it's amazing, you know, where time can kind of fill us up in our comfort. I would say that, but going forward, I think it would be nice if we could. I would love an intern just for that, like an art intern. I put that out in the world a while back. And someone that, you know, is, because we get a lot of calls to do Alvin's art to put in film and TV. And so it's hard for me to kind of do that and all the other stuff, but I don't know. We're going to get it up, and we're going to have another show and maybe a virtual gallery.
Alvin's outlet is art and painting. Gwen, how have you manage just in terms of self-care? You know, you were physically very ill. You carry a lot of the stress for the business as well. What are you doing to sort of keep yourself up? You're always up, Gwen. How do you do it?
You know what? To be honest, I'm not completely. I don't really like the person that's getting up every day. I stay up till 5 in the morning. I have no idea why. I'm reading. I'm watching old movies sometimes. I'm so tired, but I don't know. I'm like kind of reorganizing the house and cleaning projects and writing. I love to write. Finding that clarity. So I don't know. I'm not as balanced as he is with this. I'm looking at a way to build a better mousetrap with the restaurant.
She's a Gemini, and so she thinks she's more than one person. So that is part of the problem.
It's not a good thing.
I wake up and I'm like, what are you doing up?
And I don't even. And Caroline, I wish I could say I was motivated to like get out and exercise. I walk the dog. The dog keeps me a little bit. I'm still like normally a very, you know, I still feel very happy. It's weird, but I don't feel, I got some work to do. I feel like this is, I have other things that I like to do. So I've been really quietly pursuing those. I expect that this year, I'll talk more about that. Something really big to the heart.
Good. How are you helping your kids navigate? Because, you know, I know that your children, they're all young adults. You have 2 still in college. You have 1 a couple years out, making her way in the world. You know, this is difficult for them right at the beginning, right, of their journey. And I know all of your kids have also worked in the restaurant at one time or another. How are you helping them manage their stress, and how are you feeling about their future, either in the business with you or in whatever it is they want to pursue?
Well, I'll start with the youngest.
It's complicated.
The youngest is home right now, and I think she's dealing with this great because she and I and Gwen, we're the silliest people when we're together. So we've been, last night we wrote a song that I wrote, and it's called Trini.
Caroline is not kidding.
I'm scared.
Yeah.
I'm scared, Alvin.
I was like,
stick to painting, buddy.
Yeah.
Wait till I drop it. Then you'll be saying a different story.
No,
I'm sure.
No, but
Caribbean, I got all the things that I do.
But Bella and I, you know, and Gwen, we actually been having a great time at you know, just being with each other in the home, you know. Matisse is, you know, she's living in Brooklyn on her own. I think it's stressful for her because she's working from home, and it seems like, you know, when they cut back on a lot of the staff, there's a lot that she has to do. So she's dealing with the stress of actually dealing with, and she's had friends that's been affected with it as well. And so dealing with the stress of that and being quarantined at home and working, I think it's difficult for her. So we try to talk with her as much as we can. When I cook food, sometimes I drop it over there for her. So
she wants to come home tonight. Funny you should ask. She hasn't wanted to come home since she's moved into that beautiful tiny box of an apartment.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. I would say I'm a little bit tortured, a little bit underneath with all of it, because part of it is that you know, 2 kids have asthma. So, you know, once you test positive, you're like, okay, gotta be real careful. I think, you know, part of my nightly routine is extra clean in the house with the floors and there's just a lot of little stuff. But I would say that, you know, I don't want to take for granted that they're healthy, because, you know, I think we all are there until we're not. And so I feel like just being a little supportive to their mental isolation. I think it's been a disappointment not to be in school and be with their friends. I think it's hard. I think all parents must, you know, at first it might have been like a nice cool snow day, but now it's like, wow, I really miss life. Yeah. And I think the things that they take for granted that they love, you know, family time is so limited. And I think the big picture of what's ahead for them, like this is what they inherited, and they're sort of scratching their heads like, what do we do so wrong? Right. And I think that's probably what a lot of kids are starting to, you know, what am I supposed to be doing in this besides just being a student right now? So they're kind of head down on that. And then I think the summer is a big green idea of being positive, but you know, they both look like they have jobs, but they're sort of going, I don't know. So I kind of feel for them. I feel like they're, you know, it's hard to be a parent and not be an empath to those moments. I know Ollie is as strong as he is. He's going through a kind of a isolation anxiety. He's in this 4-bedroom house. He's the last guy standing in it. And fortunately, he's going to be moving to the new house. So I'm sort of talking with him through that. So, and Bella's just, she's happy to be home doing her homework, but she's sitting here, you know, the weirdest things amuse her. I mean, the other day she spent half the day with a funny wig, making an alter ego and just entertaining herself and then other friends. So I don't know.
Maybe an alter ego for an
alter ego. And I think for me, my kids are making me happy because they're doing what they're supposed to do, but I think it's hard for them. Yeah. I feel for that because they're social beasts, and then you know they want to, you know, they're like, wait a minute, what about the music festivals this summer? You know, they're thinking about all the fun things that they like in summer. So I don't know.
Yeah. Just to close out, what advice would you give to other restaurateurs, other small business owners, particularly Black small business owners, in an environment where we know that our community is being hit harder than most? You know, sort of what has worked for you that you think can work for any of them?
Well, I think, well, first of all, in this industry, you have to be nimble. You have to, because you're serving a population, a public, and there's a lot of diversity of people that come to your establishment. I think for people, this is a good time for them to probably rethink who they are and what they do for their community. I know for us, because we're so hands-on with our business, our pain have become our community pain. So they've actually been really reaching out and trying to be a part of us to keep us continued. And I think people just always care for your customers, you know, because when people see that you care about them, they care about you. And so, I mean, I think that's been one of the biggest things for us as business. And we've always heard from our customers that that's the market advantage that we have, the empathy that we show for our customers and the care. And I think if you're in any kind of hospitality, that is the most important thing. And be fair to your customers. You know?
I also think even during this time,
because that's what adds to the longevity of who you are as a person.
And I think all of this, while it is your business and it's so personal, it's important not to take it personal. Like, it's important not to isolate yourself and say, you know, woe is me, because we're all in this, as you know, that saying that we're all in this together. But, and if we really are, then the lane that we're in right now is, how do we help those that are out there, the first responders? How do we help them? How do we create a great dinner meal? Just keeping the brand simple. How do we make that meal that showed up work perfect for them? And so, I don't know, I think we've simplified our goals and not taken on everything that you're thinking about, you know, and just sort of, you know, I open the bills once a week and I close them. I'm like, did the best I could with them. I try to make calls. I think when you talk to your creditors, you talk to if there's something big that you do owe, you know, try and take it off in pieces. You can't be an ostrich in this. You gotta, it's hard. I think the hardest thing is to face that, you know, that part of that thing that looks so hard every day, and just sort of take your own personal best in that, and don't lose despair. And if the business has to change, you know, there's things that you can do to, you know, take down the expenses and up, you know, figure out where the profit margin is. The profit margin is where you really want to lean into.
I think I think at the end of the day, Caroline, you know, whether it's this business or any business that you do, it's integrity. It's being your word. I mean, our business is very cyclical. Sometimes it's high, sometimes it's low. I think you have to be careful of the people that you deal with, the people, they have small businesses too, that's your purveyors, that brings you food or whatever. And they also understand that your business is up and down. So if you're gonna call a guy in that's delivering your meat, that's a small business guy as well, and say, you know what, Joe, this week, it's a really slow week. I have X, Y, and Z coming up next week. And once I get that, I will take care of you. And next week comes, you take care of that guy. Because when times like this comes and you call them and you let them know, they'll believe in you and trust your words. And that's what's kept us in business for all those years. I've always been my word, and people trust me, and they're my base and my source.
And even like with the staff, you know, some checks were ready to be paid and some weren't, and they were really patient. And, you know, you don't ignore them. You don't put them off. You go right in and you say, all right, this part we're going to take care of now, and next week I'll, you know, finish the next part of that. And but, you know, and you want to hear how they're doing. They're a big part of the success of the restaurant. So, you know, we don't want to, it's just ta-ta for now. I'd like to believe. I don't believe that it's, you know, it's just ta-ta. We're gonna get back in this. And I think just, you know, that old-fashioned habit, treat people the way you want to be treated. That's simple.
Bottom line.
And be your word. 2 things. And the rest just gets a little simpler.
Well, you know, I have to tell you, I love your restaurant. I so appreciate your candor on this, because I know it's just been a really, really difficult time. And your last party was a roaring 20s party. I cannot wait for the party that brings Alvin and Friends roaring back. And, you know, we are rooting for you and praying for you, and just really appreciate your sharing with us today.
Well,
Thank you, Caroline. We love
Caroline,
you.
thank you for putting the world out there that we can all know each other. And,
of course, you know, of course.
And all the best to your family too, Caroline.
Thank you. And to all of you out there, best of luck in all of your businesses. Stay safe, stay well. We'll see you soon.